Okay, this is experiment number 2, the piping network. The piping network works on the basis of there is a tank of water here. Underneath the tank of water is a single speed pump, the blue pump underneath the tank. The pump takes the water from the tank and pushes it through the innermost pipe, which starts here, goes all the way up, about 9 feet vertical distance, goes across the room, and then corners, and then goes straight into the senior design lab, which is in the adjacent room. And then it circles back around on the second most inner pipe, which is right next to the pipe that it went out in. So it circles back around on the second most inner pipe, and then comes down and empties back into the tank. You turn on the pump by switching on this switch. And as you can hear, it turns on. It takes a minute for the pipes to fill and for the water to circle back around. Once this tank stops having this bubbling effect, indicates when the water has made its way through the piping network. You control the flow rate by restricting this valve. You are required to take measurements on 2 different flow rates. The first flow rate being the valve fully open, the second flow rate being the valve closed at a 45-degree angle. Okay, for the sake of keeping the noise down as I speak, I'm going to turn off the pressure. I'll turn off the pump. Now, there are 6 pressure sensors located along this piping network. Pressure sensors 1 and 2 are located over here above the red sign that says orifice flow meter. Pressure sensor 1 and 2 sandwich an orifice, a plate that has a hole cut in it that's actually a smaller size than the inner diameter of the pipe. That is an orifice flow meter. The pressure sensors, which I'll show you how to use in a minute, take the pressure drop across the orifice flow meter, which in turn can be used to calculate flow rate. And then there are 4 other pressure sensors scattered across the piping network that the locations of which are indicated in your lab handout. The pressure sensors output a voltage that is measured across this interface. Turn on the red switch on the side, and then you can see there is a representation of the piping network on a diagram on the face of this interface. There's a little switch here that will turn on the pressure sensors. So right now you see 2 lights on, which indicates that pressure sensors 1 and 2 are active. Those are pressure sensors associated with the orifice flow meter. Below are 4 Fluke multimeters. These multimeters will output a voltage. The voltage is going to be the reading outputted by the pressure sensors. So right now pressure sensors 1 and 2 are activated, will correspond to the first and the second multimeter. To activate the other 4 pressure sensors, you turn the switch 1 click to the right, and you'll see that there are 4 lights on. Pressure sensors 3, 4, 5, and 6 are now activated, which corresponds to the multimeters on the bottom in order of number 3, 4, 5, and 6. So for the first flow rate, which would be that valve that I mentioned earlier, fully open, once the flow has been established, as I explained earlier, you can tell by the tank bubbling. I'll show you an example right now. So right now the pump is on. You can see pressure sensors 1 and 2 are activated. The valve is fully open, and now multimeters 1 and 2 are outputting the voltages from pressure sensors 1 and 2. Then I go up here, I turn the knob 1 click over to the right, the other 4 pressure sensors are activated, and here are now the voltages outputted from pressure sensors 3, 4, 5, and 6. You do the same thing for the valve closed at a 45-degree angle, and you'll have another 6 pressure sensor readings. Those are all the experimental measurements you take from the experiment. There are 3 parts to this experiment, to this lab, as far as the calculations you need to make. 1 is you need to be able to find out what the actual flow rate is as indicated by the orifice flow meter as a function of the pressure difference measured across the flow meter. That's all explained in your lab handout. The second part is to take the pressure drop across the 3 sections of pipe that I explained in your lab handout. The 3 sections of pipe being the section of pipe between pressure sensors 3 and 4, 4 and 5, and 5 and 6. You take that pressure drop, which is going to be in PSI, you convert it into head, or head loss. Head loss is just a measure of pressure in terms of depth of water. So if you're 10 feet underwater, that's the equivalent of 10 feet of head that you're feeling on your ears. So you convert it into head loss, and then you calculate head loss based on Moody friction factor diagrams. That's all explained in your lab handout. And then the third part of the lab is to look at the head of the pump. The head of the pump, all that means is the pressure at the outlet portion of the pump. The pump is pushing water through the system, and so there's an outlet pressure of the pump. The only way to really know the outlet pressure of the pump is if we had a pressure sensor just in the outlet of the pump right here, which we do not have. But what we do have is the pressure reading at pressure sensor number 1, which is right before the flow meter. If you notice, before the flow meter, there's maybe about 7 feet worth of pipe, then 9 foot vertical, and then another maybe 2 feet to get to the pump. The best way to find the pressure drop, the pressure at the head of the pump, would be to take pressure sensor number 1 and back out all the losses between pressure sensor number 1 and the pump. And I'll tell you that the most significant pressure drop between the outlet of the pump and pressure sensor number 1 is this 9 feet of vertical pipe. So the suggestion is to find out the pressure at the outlet of the pump is to take the pressure reading at pressure sensor number 1, convert it into head, and then add 9 feet, which would be this made up 9 feet of vertical pipe, ignoring the horizontal loss, which is very small. Okay, that's it. Thank you.